Scoring touchdowns for the blue on blue. The Argos will win for you. Full of fight and courage, you can't stop. They pile up the points until they reach the top. Pull together till the Grey Cups won. Go Argos, go, go, go! Go Toronto Argos, go, go, go! Pull together, fight the foe, foe, foe. Scoring touchdowns for the blue on blue. The Argos will win for you. Full of fight and courage, you can't stop. They pile up the points until they reach the top. Pull together till the Grey Cups won. Go Argos, go Toronto, go! Go Argos, go, go, go!
Good evening, everybody. We're back. Welcome to Season 3, Episode 1. I'm a little rusty, but I'm excited to be back for another year of the Argo Bounce live audio show with Nick Small and myself on this Monday, June 10th, 2024, coming off an exciting and very entertaining 35-27 win over a very talented BC Lion team who are considered Grey Cup contenders this year as well at BMO Field. And I'm excited to have my co-host back for another year here, and I'm going to bring him on right now. He is Nick Small, and he's also a CFL superfan and a season ticket holder of the Toronto Argonauts, and of course, my co-host here on the Argo Show. Good evening, Nick. How you doing?
Hey, Chris, I'm doing great. And hello, everybody. If you're watching on any video stream of our broadcast, you get to see my face this time. Over this off season, I got a new computer and upgraded with new webcam. So I've got all the new fancy thingamabobbers. So in addition to, we're still going to try to keep this audio focused, but it's great that I get to show off things like my jerseys and some of the other merchandise. But we get to talk about a fantastic game yesterday. I think just anybody who was there at the game absolutely enjoyed it. It was a crazy back and forth game. We'll dive down into that. We'll talk about some of the big plays, so who are the stars, and we'll look a little bit ahead too. They have a bye week coming up, and then they play the Elks at home. So we got a lot to cover.
Absolutely, and I'm looking forward to our guest tonight too, Marty York, who should be on in a couple of minutes to talk about the Argonauts and their win, and they beat a very good football club. The BC Lions are considered one of the top teams in the league, and the Argos have gone back to being the underdogs. And I told Ryan Dinwiddie, you know what? It's always better to be the underdogs than the favorites because there's less pressure and these guys can have a chip on their shoulders. And like I said, they did a good job in the second half, Nick, down 20. They were at one point, they were down 20-6. But what I think was one of the key turning points in this game was Deshaun Amos's tipped interception where they made BC pay with 7 points. And then they got a field goal at the end of the half off another turnover as well. So just getting those 10 points there got them right back in the game. 20-16 in the first half. Second half, they outscored. Actually, after they were down 20-6, they outscored BC 30-7. So overall, it wasn't. There's some things they need to clean up, but overall, I thought it was went well, and it was a nice start to the season as well.
Yeah, definitely, Chris. I mean, when we saw that they had Dukes had the fumble that led to the scoop and score touchdown there to take that 26 lead with, I think it was roughly 5 minutes to go until a half, everybody was kind of moping and thinking, oh, this is going to be the part where they roll over and it's going to be a long night. But they ended up bouncing back, and you got to give credit to Cam Dukes. It's very easy that you push yourself into trying to make up for it. There goes one of my hats. But you go and you try to make up for it and try too hard, and then you cause more turnovers. Like, hate to bring it up, but the East Final last year was a good example of that. Instead, they refocused, reset, and they were able to make it work. I think, yeah, definitely the turnover, the interception was huge at bringing back some momentum. And the fact that they were only down by less than a field goal at halftime, it gave them the opportunity to get back into that game. And they went and they ran with it. And you got to give a lot of credit to some of the new additions that came to this team as well. A lot of the talk has been about guys who left. AJ Olette being at the top there, Adarius Pickett, Jamal Peters, guys like that. But Kadeem Carey played amazing in that first half. I know I personally, I thought he would be okay. I did not expect that he would bring the record numbers that he had 2 seasons ago with Calgary, but he brought those and he looked outstanding. And how about Jake Serezna? I mean, he was absolutely outstanding, even though he only had 1 sack, I think. The coverage that he was facing by the Lions blocking allowed Brinkman, Arimulade, and Robbie Smith to generate pressure as well. So I thought he did outstanding coming in for his first year with the Argos. So it's really great to see.
Right now, the strengths of that defense, I believe, is their front four. I think the linebackers are good. The secondary still needs a little bit of work, but you know what? I think they're going to overall have a good defense. And you know what, Nick? I'm going to be honest here too. Obviously, I cover the team doing some media work, but I'm also a fan. And during free agency, you know what? It's a business. And as a fan, I kind of was a little disappointed that a lot of these guys left, but it is a business. And you know what? I think this team, from the sounds of it, and speaking to Ben Grant from TSN 1050 yesterday, I think they still have good depth, and I think they're still going to have a very good defense. Obviously, Dimwitty says there's still some stuff to clean up, but it's only one game, 1 week, and for Cam Dukes, what I liked about him the most, Nick, is that fumble that happened, and they got 7 points out of that, or 6 points. He didn't let it bother him, his mindset, and also noticing Dukes in the pocket, he looked more composed, relaxed, and he also didn't force things. When something wasn't available, he took what was available, and I just think he's matured and developed a lot from year one in the CFL.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so easy for a quarterback like Dukes who has that kind of tuck and run ability that they kind of overuse it. And I think we see that, like, if we look at Ottawa as an example last year. But Dukes didn't overrun when things weren't going right. He had that little bit of extra patience in the pocket, and you saw that. I think it was Rashid Bailey. There was one pass in particular where he darted just an absolutely perfect ball to him. And what I really liked about it is he wasn't going just for the check downs. He was managing to find those guys who were open kind of 10, 15 yards down the field, getting first down after first down, and just strategically moving the ball down the field. You can argue that, yeah, he didn't get kind of the deep kind of 30+ long bomb, and really there weren't those kind of busts in coverage. If you compare it to BC, for instance, Vernon Adams had that. I think it was the second touchdown. There was a clear bust in coverage. The guy was wide open. There was no Argonaut player in the back. And I think the other two receivers who were near him in the end zone, it seemed like nobody was covering any of them deep. But having that ability to find that open guy and to take what you're given, work on those quick 15, 10-yard slants and move the ball. It was great that there was that right element of leading the receivers where they were able to turn that into really good yak yardage.
And Nick, what I liked about the offense last night, it was well balanced. Obviously, 254 yards from Dukes in the air, but they also had 120 yards on the ground as well. Obviously, from Carey, from Dukes, and I think that makes the offense even better when you can be well balanced, because then teams can't just like line up and let's get Dukes and the receivers. You have to also pay attention to the running backs, and I think Carey's going to be a good addition if he can stay healthy. I was talking to David last night, Morris Sitsudi, and he said Carey's a good running back if he can stay healthy. And Daniel Oboye, I think they're going to have a good year running the football as well as passing.
Yeah, what really impressed me with the receiving is that, looking at the injury list coming into this game, there was no David Ungerer, there was no DeMonte Coxey from last year. The player they drafted for, I think it was 5th overall in the fourth or fifth overall in the CFL draft. Kevin Mittal, he's on the injured list as well. And so you had a lot of new guys who came in, guys like Richie Sindani, guys like Rashid Bailey, guys like Malachi Polk who came in, and they looked right at home. Cam Dukes had absolutely no trouble finding them, and was able to spread the ball around. And I really like seeing that in the final stats, because it shows that your quarterback's not gunning in on one single guy, that they're able to spread the ball around, and it leaves opportunities for guys being open later. And I think in terms of running the scheme, you're not always running the scheme where you're moving the kind of all-star guy around from place to place where it's the most likely to catch the ball. It allows everybody to be a potential threat, and it makes that much more pressure on the opposing defense, that they have to really be able to cover everybody at once.
Last night, I thought the fans were great, but I was a little disappointed. 12,767. Obviously, the diehard fans were there. The weather wasn't very good in the daytime, but at nighttime, it was nice out. Like it was a little chilly, a little windy, but it would have been nice to see 15 to 20,000 out there. But you know what? If this team continues to play well and win, hopefully the fans will start coming out, because when you haven't been to BMO Field like us in 6 months and you go back there, you appreciate it more, because it's such a great facility, and especially for the Canadian Football League as well. And I was just glad to be back there as well. And we're waiting for Marty York to come on. Hopefully he'll be on in another minute or two, and we'll just keep talking. But as for the Argonauts, 318 yards net offense, 120 on the ground, 254 in the air. What I liked about Dukes also, we talked about Dukes earlier, 21 for 27, 254, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Obviously, he had the fumble, but you know what? Quarterbacks, it happens to all of them, even the great ones, and he didn't let it bother him as well. And he just didn't force anything, and that's what I liked. The quarterback coach for the Argos, I think, has done a nice job with Dukes, and you can tell, Nick, when you talk to him as media, or if you do as a fan, he's confident, but he's not cocky. And I believe he has good character on and off the field. And the guys, Rashid Bailey, they love him, and I think it's only going to get better with Cameron as well. And he's still a young quarterback in terms of CFL experience. And he's going to have games where he does throw an interception or two or have fumbles in that. But I think long term, he can be a very good quarterback in the Canadian Football League.
Yeah, for anybody on X or Twitter who follows me, you might have seen I made a post about Cam Dukes that really just shows off his character. Gets off the field probably 15 minutes after winning the game, if that, and he's the first guy out of the locker room, and he goes over to where all the fans are, all the kids that are out there with Sharpies and their cell phones, wanting to take photos and get autographs, and he's right there signing kids' hats and jerseys and everything. It's just such a classy thing to do. That I remember when I was there as a kid, it was often like the hardworking guys, the old linemen, and people who maybe don't get the kind of name recognition as some of the others during the autograph sessions. But for the starting quarterback to be out there right away and be first there and really paying it forward and being a role model, someone that these kids can look up to, it's a really great thing to see, and it says a lot about his character as a person. Another thing I want to touch as well, talking sort of about the fans. Yeah, the fans, I mean, there was a lot of sort of hesitancy, I think, coming into this year with the Chad Kelly scandal. If we're being honest, I think that did have a bit of an impact going into things this season. But I thought what was really nice was at the beginning of before the game started, there was a really nice tribute out to Enoch Mwamba. Last year, he didn't play for the Argonauts, but was technically still on the roster. And this year he officially announced his retirement, and they had a really nice retirement ceremony for him. And it was the thing I was most disappointed with the rest of the fans was I was trying to get the Enoch chant going, but nobody seemed to want to join me, which was a little bit disappointing. But it was really glad for me. I'm really happy that they were able to to have that moment and really recognize what he did in that Grey Cup year in 2022. And just rewatching the game before on TSN before doing this podcast tonight, hearing him talk with Paul LaPolice, who in fact drafted him for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, which I don't think a lot of people know. You just
Long
remember
time ago.
first time in Toronto, and then before that Montreal, but yeah, everybody forgets he was drafted to Winnipeg first. It was really cool to see them reminisce a little bit, and how now he's there as an analyst and offering some really great insight, and he talks a lot about that leadership ability, and he talked about it with this game today or yesterday, and how Cam Dukes is seen as a leader out there, and that's what's gonna get them to it.
Gonna put you on the spot here, Nick. Enoch, obviously a very popular Toronto Argonaut.
Mhm.
Do you feel one day he'll be on the all-time Argos or on the all-time Argos list, or you don't feel that he played enough years to be considered for that?
Oh, yeah, that's a difficult question. I think that definitely could be seen as kind of the major strike against. He was only there for I think 2 seasons. So yeah, that could apply. But I mean, you also look at another instance of a couple of guys who played for multiple teams. You look at Doug Flutie, won the 2 back-to-back Grey Cups in '96 and '97, and you look at Damon Allen. He's played for like half the league, it seems. So um, it's definitely possible. And of course, it's not me or you who gets the final say in those sorts of things. And I could definitely see the argument for him because he was such a key reason of why they won that Grey Cup, not just in the Grey Cup game itself, but all season long. He was the leader and the voice and the heart and soul of that team. And those are the kind of guys who go up on the all-time Argos list as some of the greats. So yeah, I could kind of see it go either way. Um, but I think if we look at again guys like Damon Allen, who didn't get on almost 10 years after he retired, I think it probably won't be right away. It would be a little while into the foreseeable future, and we have some time to kind of digest it.
Thoughts on Enoch with TSN as an analyst?
I think he's great. I think he brings just such a great additional personality, and character, but he also has a ton of contemporary knowledge of the game, having just retired. He sees things that some of the other analysts don't, and looks at it from a different perspective, and you can see just how beloved he is by everybody because he goes to the games and everybody's going up to him, shaking hands, like whether it's BC or Toronto in this game or anybody else. Like he's such an approachable and super kind guy, and he's just the perfect person to have as an analyst, I think.
Speaking of the all-time Argo list, if they do any this year, who would you like to see up there?
Ooh, that's a difficult question. Um, I think there's a case to maybe be made for some guys from the 2012 Grey Cup roster. I think Ricky Ray is probably a pretty obvious one, and I think Chad Owens and Andre Dury could definitely be potential guys. Those would probably be maybe a little bit of my bias because they were guys I looked up to growing up as a kid. A fun fact: when I played in the Mississauga Football League, just after kind of I was aging out of JV high school level, Chad Owens and Andre Dury's kids were playing, so they were often at games and at practices. So it was cool meeting them. And one time at an Argos scrimmage thing, I got to play catch with Ricky Ray as well, which was pretty cool. So some really cool memories of that. So that's kind of my personal bias. I definitely like to see any or all of those three on the list. And then I think, yeah, too difficult to pick names further back than that, but those would be my top three just from kind of recent history. What about you, Chris?
Old-time Argos, I would have to say Chad Owens would have to go on that list. Definitely Chad Owens. I would say for this year, probably just Chad Owens.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. Chad was the Flying Hawaiian, was such an iconic guy of those years. Kind of the end of the Sky Dome era. He was definitely kind of one of the faces of the franchise, and his ability, his sheer talent, like he was just awesome.
I was just thinking about this too, Nick. I think it's the Argos' what, 8th year now at BMO Field, which is
Yeah,
hard to believe.
yeah, I think
2016,
yeah, 2016, yeah. So
and
yeah,
they did lose the 2020 season, but it's just hard to believe. And you know what? I still have never been to a bad weather game at BMO Field so far.
yeah, there's been a couple of chilly ones, a couple of wet ones. The East Final against Hamilton, the East
Yeah.
Final against Saskatchewan when they won that Grey Cup in 2017, I believe. So yeah, there's a couple of not so great games, but yeah, the good ones have far outweighed it. And I mean, we even saw that just yesterday. It could have been one of those games that just torrential downpour, but it cleared up and it ended up being a perfect night for football. A little breezy, but enough to just affect things. And it was nice and clear, so the rain didn't bother anyone.
And you know what? I want to give a shout out to Adam Goss. I think he does a great job as the public address announcer, getting the fans fired up, and does a great job with the Argonauts. And Jeff, who's the DJ this year, he's taken over. He does the music. I did a lot of recordings from behind the scenes yesterday too, when Rod Smith and Dwayne Ford were at work, and Mike Hogan and Ben Grant. So,
Mm.
guys, if you check out my social media pages, you'll see some behind the scenes videos that I did as well. And it was so great to talk to Ben again. Ben is a professional, but he's also well prepared, and he is passionate about the Toronto Argonauts and the CFL. And he also has a pulse, a very good pulse for this franchise. And he said a lot of stuff yesterday before the game, and he was right about the O line and D line being the strengths of this team so far in
Mhm.
2024.
Yeah, what I think a lot of Argos fans might take for granted sometimes is how we've got the people who are in those positions, guys like Adam Goss, the PA announcer, Ben Grant, Mike Hogan. They're all super accessible, which I think is one of the key things too. That as we've seen with X's and Argos, that they're always advocating that hey, they're going to be over at something in the water. You're able to go see them and chat and talk football, and they're always open to conversation about the team and the league, and that you can kind of get their opinions on things and debate, and but they also all bring just such a huge enthusiasm and passion. And I mean, you even see that south of the stadium for the tailgating, that everybody there is all, we get a bad rap at times because there's not a ton of Argos fans proportionate to the rest of the league. Like you talk about it, how come we don't get 15,000 people? But the ones who do show up are there every single game, and they always put their
Diehards.
heart and soul. Yeah, absolutely, they're diehards. So, it's in a way coming back after this kind of 6 month hiatus. It's almost like a reunion of everybody because you see all your friends and Argo family there at the games. So, and everybody's all really committed to supporting the team. And you see that when things go well and enjoying and celebrating, and you see things that when things don't go well, that they want to hold guys accountable, but they also want the team to be at their best. So, and it definitely helps with the crowd noise. It's definitely not brought in through some intercom system. That's all genuine fans who care about their team
Yeah.
and want them to win.
And Nick, before we get into questions, I want to get it from you first. Royce, I guess Royce is it Mishi now? Is it
It's
pronounced
Metier. This is a
Meche?
proper
Meche.
pronunciation, like Mark
Meche.
Messier, Royce Metier.
Okay. Okay, yeah, because I'm not the only one that mispronounced his name, but Royce was cool about it, and he's another guy that before the games he likes to throw the football around to the fans, and the mainstream Toronto media doesn't see the good things the Argonauts do for the community and their fan base as well, and that's what I try to do, covering the team freelance, obviously for myself, is to show the good signs of the team as well, and they do a lot of good things for the organization, for the community as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think sometimes um, what kind of gets underrated is how often the Argonaut players are out there active in the community, whether it's helping out in Indigenous communities or with youth football initiatives, with sick kids and other type camps to food drives, especially around Thanksgiving time. They're very active in the community, and I find that the football players are tend to be some of the most down to earth athletes, and maybe that's because they're not being paid $20 million for 4 seasons of play or something like some other guys in other leagues are. But yeah, to me, and that's not to rip on any other teams. Like they have their own initiatives and what they do to help. But I find that like I've never seen any other sports where I can follow 20 of the CFL players on Twitter or on Instagram or whatever, and I can shoot them messages and they'll write a message back to me in 20 minutes. You don't see that in other leagues. So that level of accessibility is just awesome, and that the players are able to and want to be a part of the community too. It's not just they're thinking, "Oh, I have to do this because I'm an athlete." They want to do it and they genuinely want to help their communities. So it's an amazing thing to see.
Yeah, Nick, I apologize. I did send Marty the link. I'm just not sure if he's having technical difficulties. So fingers crossed that we can get Marty York on tonight. And if we can't, we can always reschedule with Marty because Marty has had quite a career in the Toronto journalism, obviously with the Globe and Mail, Sportsnet, and TSN. And Marty loves the Argonauts and the CFL. So if we can't get Marty on tonight, we will try to get him on again for a future guest as well. Nick,
Yep.
since we're going to get back to the Argonauts, what did you like from the team the most in their home opener, and who are some of the Argonauts who stood out for you in this game against a very good BC Lions team?
Yeah, well, we spent a lot of time talking about the offensive side of things, so that resiliency, Cam Dukes, Kadeem Carey, Rashid Bailey, among others, definitely have stood out so far. I want to also talk a little bit on the defensive side of the ball because I don't think we got to that quite much. What I thought was really key in kind of the early mid part of the third quarter, there was a part where Jonathan Jones went down, and Fraser Sopik had to come in, and then Winnie McManus also had to go down for a couple of plays, and we saw that Jack Cassar, um, fellow Lorne Park alumni, you can see his jersey right there if you're watching on video. He stepped up to play middle linebacker in there, and then Exume, he came in as a backup for Quincy Moget as the Sam linebacker. So there was a moment in there where it was basically like just all heck breaking loose and backup guys coming in the linebacking positions, and they all stood their ground and helped contribute to that win. And I think we've kind of talked about before the fact that just like in past years, like last year, we've talked about how good the depth of this team is, and we needed to see that depth take hold in this game, and those guys stood up. And then, of course, you got to give credit as well to the whole defensive line core and offensive line core for how they did in this game. That's what won them the game, with the way that they were able to put pressure on Vernon Adams almost every snap. And then the O-line being able to give Cam Dukes that ability to roll out, to jump up in the pocket, to occasionally duck and run, but also to have extra time to find guys wide open and to target them as well as they did. So, yeah, and I think where, if you're to kind of flip it on the head, where I think, the struggles were probably most prevalent. We saw a little bit of challenges in the secondary, and I think that's just going to come with time and experience. They do have a new defensive back coordinator. Got my notes here, with Will Fields co-defensive coordinating with Kevin Iben. So there's going to be some challenges there with the departure of Corey Mace. And then, I think where it did kind of struggle a little bit too was the special teams. It wasn't quite on the mark, where we saw like Harlow unfortunately missed 2 extra points. And then,
But to be fair,
yeah,
but to be fair, Sean White missed an extra point too, and I believe all those extra points were on the one side of BMO Field.
well,
Because it was quite windy last night. I'm not making excuses, but I think the wind was a little bit of a factor too.
yeah, well, the Sean White one was the botch snap. It had nothing to do with White himself.
White.
And then the other, the 2 misses by Harlow, one was on each end of the field. So, There was just I don't know what it was. If it was maybe I didn't see who was place holding. I would probably think it was Haggerty, but maybe just getting that ball set a bit differently. And then I mean Haggerty did have that one really good punt there right at the end of the game where it kind of
60
bounced on
yards.
that 1 yard line bounce. I
60
almost
yards.
Yeah, in the context of it though, I almost would have rather have had it go in for that Rouge because I think they were only up 6 at that point. So but I mean it worked out, but you do kind of wonder if having that extra little buffer point would have helped things. And
They
then
were only up by 2. They were only up
okay,
at
yeah.
2 at that
So
time.
again, they'd be up 3. So then the field goal, if BC had have gotten the field goal range, it would have, yeah, it would have tied the game rather than giving them a lead. So it was a very nerve wracking ending to that game. I was on the edge of my seat the whole time, like you and I think
It
many
was
other
back and
fans.
forth, back and forth. But you know what the difference in the game was? And this goes in college football, the NFL. Turnovers, BC 5, Toronto 1, and sacks, Toronto 6, BC 2. Anytime you have more sacks than the other team and the turnover battles, when you win a turnover battle in football, generally you're going to win 90%. 85-90% of the time. So I think that was great. The Argos had 6 sacks of Vernon Adams Jr. and then getting the turnovers. That's huge too. And
Yeah.
other than the Duke's fumble, they played clean football. And just hey, like I said, there's a lot of positives to go forward. They do have a bye week now, and then I guess
Yep.
their next game is at home against the Edmonton Elks, who are going to be a dangerous team coming into Toronto because they're going to be looking for their first win, and they
Mhm.
have a number of former Argonauts on that team as well coming up in a couple weeks.
Yeah. What do you think of the challenge situation there? Because we saw that there was the Ryan Dinwiddie kind of held off on the challenge for a little while. There was maybe one or two where a couple of fans were yelling, throw it," and he kept it pocketed. And then the one he did throw it on the challenge, he kind of bobbled it. I thought he was out of bounds. Like he kind of had his back foot trailing, but his other foot like clearly stepped out of bounds. Were you surprised by that at all, or do you think that? I think you interviewed him about it, or someone did. I saw in the post game interview. What do you think about it?
I think he was out of bounds, but I'm not the official, so but I think he only challenged what twice in that game last night, twice or
Oh,
once.
there was just the one
One.
challenge.
1,
Yeah,
okay, 1.
yeah,
You know what? I'll be honest, o overall, I didn't really have any issues with the officiating. Obviously, Toronto had 6 penalties for 55 yards and BC for 3 for 18, so there was some penalties in the game, and there's a couple that the Argos need to clean up going forward, but I don't think it was, decided by the officiating or the referees overall, but, I don't know. I thought that was a good good challenge by Dinwiddie, and unfortunately, it didn't go the Argos' way. But like I said, it's a long season, and I'm sure they're going to have more challenges going forward.
yeah. I thought the no yards was a little fishy on the one that kind of bounced there. I thought they had given a pretty clear gap of 5, but one of the referees clearly decided not. I think seeing it on the TSN replay where you're looking at it more across the field rather than the one they kept showing us at the game was more from behind where the returner was. So I think it gave you a bit of a different perspective where that kind of changes my opinion a little bit more on that. And then yeah, I think where, with officiating, the challenge is you want to be consistent and fair when it's going one call consistently against one team versus the other. We didn't see a lot of that, so I think what was called in against the Argos was ultimately pretty fair. Um, so yeah, I think we take that for what it will. And then yeah, for challenges, I find what the biggest challenge now is ever since they dropped it where now you only get one challenge if you're unsuccessful. You get to keep your challenge if you make it correct. It puts a lot of pressure and being conservative on timing in it. And I think in the interview with Ryan Dinwiddie, it's up on the Argos webpage if you haven't seen it already. But he is kind of defeatist about it now. I think it's like doesn't matter. It's gonna go against us anyways, kind of thing. But it always seems that when that does happen, there's always inevitably going to be one like within 3 plays after. And I remember the one in particular where Curly Giddens like clearly got hit in the side before he had a chance to touch the ball. Like it hadn't even gotten halfway to him, and the guy basically tackled him, and the ball didn't get the flag didn't get thrown. So those kind of things are going to happen. And but yeah, I think you try not to let it influence the game, and you focus on winning on your own merits, and that's what the Argos ended up doing with great defensive pressure.
Okay, where you're talking, Nick, I was listening. I just heard from Marty York, and he's having some troubles getting on to StreamYard. So I'm not sure we're going to be able to get Marty on tonight, but we'll try to get him on again in the future. And I have to ask why StreamYard locked him out. Apparently, some kind of lockout thing. So
Uh,
I'm not sure about that. So I'll have to contact StreamYard like that. I've never had a guest locked out. So Marty is watching, and Marty was going to come on, but sometimes technical difficulties happen as well. Nick, before we get to some more questions, before we wrap up this show, I'm going to play the post-game interview with the newest member of the Toronto Argonauts, number 88, Rashid Bailey, who had a touchdown and 5 receptions and 50 yards in his Argos debut against the BC Lions. For the BC Lions here at BMO Field, I have a special guest here in the Argos locker room, former Winnipeg Blue Bomber wide receiver and now Toronto Argonaut, number 88, Rashid Bailey is going to join us, and I'm going to get some thoughts from Rashid about tonight's win. Just thoughts about the game tonight.
Man, it was a team effort. The atmosphere was beautiful, man. Just feels good to be back out there with the guys, building this new family, building this new rapport. Man, like you learn to love guys when you win and lose. Tonight we won, we came out on top, and it just feels good to get the win, go on the bye week feeling happy, and get back after it after the bye.
From what I saw, everybody contributed tonight. And thoughts on the play of quarterback Cameron Dukes, who's in the second year with the Argonauts.
Dukes, man, I love that kid, man. It's only been game one, but we've been together for a month now, and just to see his growth, to see how poised he's been. He's made a lot of plays. He made a lot of right decisions tonight. I'm proud of him. He's 25 years old, and just like he's out there making plays and doing what he does. And we got veteran receivers out there that's able to make some plays for him, and some young guys too, man. It's always good. So just seeing him do his thing, man, I'm extremely proud of him to get his first win. This is special.
What was said when you guys were down 20-6? Because I noticed you guys didn't panic at all.
Oh, there is no panic, man. We got guys that's been around this league for a long time. I'm just on the sideline, just being myself, firing guys up, letting them know that, we one play away. And we were. And we made it happen. Defense stepped up big time. I made a couple plays. Tommy made some plays. Dukes made some plays. It just it all just flowed together. And defense capped it off.
How much of an adjustment was it coming over from Winnipeg to the Argonauts organization, and just thoughts on this team?
Yeah, man, it was extremely different. It was emotional during the offseason for me, just trying to find a way to adjust to it. But, I've been
Uh-oh. technical difficulties. I'm never sure whether it's you or me.
And it is who it's me. 88 is me. And at first, I didn't even want the
It
number,
is him.
but when I learned the history behind that number, I enjoyed it, and it's beautiful to see how much how the character is 80. So it's special, and to get it coming here, Coach RD made sure that I had it to come here, and that number means a lot to me. So it's special.
And just one fun fact about yourself, and where can Argo fans follow you if you're on social media?
Oh, fun fact. I have a podcast called Showtime Speaks. I also do a lot of motivational speaking. So if you want to follow that page and the Showtime Sheet page, man, follow me.
All right, Rashid, thank you for doing this. And again, congratulations on your first win as the Toronto Argonauts and continue this season.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Go Argos.
I apologize for the technical difficulties there. It was something to do with my Ethernet. So I apologize. And again, we're going to hope to have Marty York back on again as well. Technical difficulties for him getting on here tonight. The joys of technology, a lot of times they're great, but sometimes things happen with tech. Nick, thoughts on the interview with Rashid Bailey, number 88?
Yeah, I think he's going to be a pretty popular guy in Toronto with that kind of personality. And I think what it just really emphasizes is the family dynamic that this team has, the focus on the season and the ability of these guys to all be in it together and to bring each other up. There's no negativity. There's no singling out. Everybody's there to support everybody, and you see it demonstrated there. And yeah, really like Rashid Bailey's personality. It's cool to learn about his motivational speaking. So definitely has the potential to go far here as a Toronto Argonaut if he plays like this every week. So really excited with what this means for the team going forward.
Yeah, he's only been with the team, I think, a month, but he's already developed chemistry with his teammates and with Cameron Dukes as well. And I really think that's going to be a really nice pickup as well. And he's a veteran receiver who's won back-to-back Grey Cups with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. So he brings that veteran presence and winning presence to this offense.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Nick, just quick thoughts on the fans for the game against BC. And we've talked about this before, but how can this team get to, I think, realistic numbers, 80,000 fans a game on average? As a fan, Nick, and also a co-host of the show and doing a little media work doing this as well, what ideas would you use to try to get a little more fans coming in, like more of the casual fans?
Well, keep winning and keep advertising on mainstream media, get more core audience members. I think what we've kind of seen is that having some more dedicated programs can help, like what we're doing, what other shows have been doing. But I think what it all comes down to is it's going to attract people who are already CFL fans. We need to get more presence in, on the standard news at networks. The fact that, hey, the Toronto Argonauts are playing tonight, things like that, getting guys like Cam Dukes. We see pinball there on interviews all the time on mainstream TV, on CP24 or Global or CTV or whatever. Need that exposure every week. The fact that guys like Korolnik and Kolyakovo are talking Argos almost every day now at some point, bringing it up, that to just draw more attention. And the fact that the team is winning, and if they keep up this system, this style, this culture of winning, it's starting to turn heads, I think, and hopefully it just keeps drawing more people. And like we kind of touched earlier, it didn't help that they had sort of some negative publicity this off season, but they're drawing it forward now. They're focused now going forward, and I think this game kind of showed if they can win games in this dramatic fashion like that, it's gonna keep attracting fans. So it's what they got to keep doing. So I think they're sticking with the plan that they've got set up, and I mean, we saw it hit a huge peak at the East Final last year when they opened up the East deck and they came close to that 20,000 number. So yeah, I think that's what they just got to keep doing.
Well, my take is, yeah, my thoughts are they need halftime, the entertainment. I'm not saying to bring in 50 cents like BC, but there's nothing going on there at halftime. And I'm a traditionalist. Bring in marching bands, bring in local high school marching bands, some kind of entertainment for halftime. And I would have liked to seen a hat or t-shirt giveaway on opening night. I'm not saying every game of the year, but I think opening day it needs to be more of a special occasion, and that would have been nice with the shirts. But I think having a halftime show from a local musician band or a high school band would have been nice as well. Nick, there's something else I was going to say, and I forgot. I can't remember now, so I'm going to let you go, Nick.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I think we've touched on that before. I definitely would like to see the Argonauts back, but I think there was a really nice plug-in for the former head of the Argonauts, the conductor. When they did the Argo fight song, he was there and he had his conductor's wand, and he was out there doing the uh, doing the conducting for the fans out there to sing along, and I think it actually worked. I think it got a lot of people got their attention and people singing along. And when it comes to the home opener, it should be really a welcome back for the faithful. So I think it did hit that vibe. And I think with regards to giveaways, there's going to be things coming up. I think there's one coming up just this week with their next home game, with the Pride game against Edmonton. So I think there's going to be things like that, and yeah, it won't be an every game thing, but I'm not particularly worried. I think if they can prove through this tricky stretch without Chad Kelly that they can win games, especially at home. And so far they've done that through one game. They just got to keep doing that, and the numbers will take care of themselves if they focus on the product on the field.
But to me, marketing's huge, and I still would like to see more stuff at halftime to entertain fans as well. But we'll see. Hey, I do think Sean and Alicia West and Sean Bowen, they do a really good job as the in-game hosts. I think they do a good job in game, and I think they're a positive to the Argos
It
in-game
was
presentation.
I gotta say one thing during the in-game entertainment. It was really cool that they brought the caddy guy from the Canadian Open. The guy who came in and substituted because the guy's caddy got hurt, and he carried the clubs for him for 2 holes. He was wearing an Argonauts hat, so it's pretty cool that they managed to bring him out in the game, and they kind of made a gimmick out of it where they looked like they were playing some putting mini game, and then he shows up and it's like, oh yeah, here, he'll hold the clubs for you, he'll show you how it's done. I almost would have liked to have seen him given a putt at it on their little mini putt that they set up, but I thought that was a really awesome thing that they did for him.
Absolutely. Hey, Nick, before we wrap this up, we're gonna do the segment we did last year. Who are your Argos 3 stars of this game?
Yep. Okay. I will give
Put you on
two
the
of
spot
them.
here.
Yep. I'll give a couple of them to some of the new additions on the roster. I'm going to give one to Jake Serezna, and I'm going to give one to Rashid Bailey. And I'll give my third to one of the new guys as well, Kadeem Carey. I thought the three of them all showed that they were worthy additions to the team. And I think, coming in, so much of the focus this year has been, as I mentioned before, oh, we lost AJ Olette. Oh, we lost this guy. Oh, we lost that guy. Well, we also got some really freaking good pieces. And I think we need to acknowledge that and give them the credit they deserve. So that's why I'm going to pick those three as my picks for this week. What about you, Chris? Who are your three stars?
My 3 stars, Cam Dukes or Cameron Dukes. I'm going to call him Cam Dukes. The number 2 star, Kadeem Carey, and my third star, I could easily give it to the entire defensive line, but I'm going to go with Jarrett Brinkman. I think he was an impact. Everybody on the D line played great last night, so I'm going to go with Jarrett Brinkman. So Dukes, Carey, and Brinkman are my 3 Argonaut stars of this game.
Yep, all worthy choices.
And finally, Nick, wrap this up 1 second. Thoughts on the week 2 bye? Ideally for football players, I think they'd rather have it halfway during the season, but unfortunately with the CFL schedule, I guess you get it when you get it. But thoughts on the week 2 bye, anyways, and thoughts on the Argos' upcoming opponents, the Edmonton Elks, on Saturday, June 22nd at BMO Field, and seeing Boris Beatty, Javon League, McLeod Bethel Thompson, Curly Gittins Jr. All come back to Toronto as well.
So I will tell you this. A week 2 bye week is significantly better than the last 2 seasons where we had the bye the very first week. So I will give that note. In terms of the game against the Edmonton Argonauts, it's exciting to have these guys back. Personally, I'm really. It's not often I'm looking forward to guys on the visiting team, but I think this might be one of the times where like you kind of spend some more time at the visitor tunnel to say hello and reunite with some of those guys, because they're all of them were part of that championship team in 22. So it's really cool to have them back. But that being said, when it comes to like the matchup, just looking at it early on, we've still got a week to prognosticate, and I think Edmonton has a game themselves. I need to double check the schedule, but until Edmonton can prove they win games, I'm still going to pick Toronto over them, because as we saw in the Saskatchewan game, Edmonton had a fairly significant lead late, and they blew it. So until the Elks quit continuing to elk, unfortunately, I got to take Toronto over them, even despite how much it hurts to some of the former Argonaut players that I admire and respect.
Yeah, the Elks to me are still going to be a very dangerous team, because I think in the CFL there's only 9 teams, obviously, and people always look at the records, but I think this is going to be a very competitive game, and I think the Elks are going to be hungry for the first win. I'm not predicting a score yet, but I think it'll be a very good game, and I think it'll be close. Out of all the former Argonauts on the I think the biggest ovation from the BMO crowd.
Well, I hope it's McLeod Bethel Thompson. I don't think fans really realize how lucky we were to have him when we did, especially for all the crap he took, where it seemed, especially that 2022 year. The thing he heard most at BMO Field was being told how much better Chad Kelly was than him. So, for us, I think we owe it to McLeod Bethel Thompson to give him a really huge ovation, and to thank him in particular for leading this team to a Grey Cup.
I tend to agree with you, Nick, and I was one of the doubters of McLeod Bethel Thompson, and he proved us wrong and proved me wrong as well. So now I remember what I wanted to ask Marty.
I believed in him from the beginning. I said that during the Hamilton game.
Yeah.
So
yes, yeah, I admit I was one of the critics, and he proved. So I openly admit that. Now, the one thing I wanted to ask Marty York if he had come on tonight, but unfortunately, technical difficulties. We're going to try to get him back on again in the future. I want to ask Marty, what if the Argos go 6-3 in those 9 games, or 7-2? How do you go and take Cameron Dukes out of the lineup hypothetically? I know this is all conjecture, but that's something that could be facing this team later on in the season as well.
Yeah, a really interesting question. I think if they're proven that they're able to win games with Cam Dukes, I think you gotta stick with him. If they have a record like 6-3 or above, I think it could be a little different if it's 50-50. But I think where the challenge in that is that, as we've kind of seen with Hamilton's a good example of this with Bo Levi Mitchell, you paid the guy more than anybody else to be the guy of the team. So I think I could see it go either way. I think it would need to be better than even like 6-3. I think it would need to be like a 7-2 or an 8-1 kind of situation, where you start to think, oh, maybe we'll stick with Dukes. But if it's anything lower than that, I think it ends up kind of becoming Chad's keys to the car again by default, just because you're paying so much into having him be the guy. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. Yeah, if it's not 8-2 or 7-2, I think
I would say 6-3. I would say 6-3, 6-3 or better. I think there's going to be a major decision to make at some point as well. Hey, Nick, before we wrap this up, thoughts on week one games? Montreal blowing out Winnipeg, Calgary beating Hamilton, but barely hanging on to that game, and then the Saskatchewan Edmonton. Just quick thoughts on week one in the CFL.
Well, I put a loony on my picks as a parlay, and just saying this as a disclaimer, I don't put a lot of money on games. Don't put more than you're willing to part with. So for me, losing a loony isn't a big deal. I made $45 because I got all four picks right, so I am pretty happy. Especially with the Montreal over Winnipeg game, I was kind of surprised. Part of me was kind of surprised with how big a landslide win it was for Montreal. But I think with the fact that Winnipeg had really not played a lot of their starting guys, you in camp, you can't just expect them to come into regular season week one and be all cycle repeated from last year. I think we're starting to see the window close on Winnipeg a little bit. They might prove everybody wrong, and they might. I don't know who they're playing week 2 or week 3, but they might end up winning those games like 45-12 or something. But this could have been their warm up game. But I think there's definitely the potential that that window might be closing, and you might start seeing other teams. A lot of people have Saskatchewan on their radars. A lot of people have BC on their radars as teams that could challenge for the West this year. And Calgary looked good too. Jake Mayer, I think, had some of the best passing statistics of all the quarterbacks in week one, so against Hamilton. So there's a case to be made that Calgary could be back too. So it makes everything exciting going forward. And then not to leave out the Saskatchewan Edmonton game. If every game this year ends up being like the Argonauts game this week and yesterday and the Saskatchewan Edmonton game, we're in for a really exciting season of football. So I watch pretty much every game every year. And I'm hoping that a lot of you guys do as well, because it's going to be a really exciting season this year.
By the way, I want to do one more shout out before we end our show. I know TSN's had some great broadcasters, and Rod Black did a great job with the CFL over the years. But I want to give a thumbs up to Dustin Nelson, who's paired with Glenn Suter. I think Dustin Nelson, you can tell how much he has a passion for the Canadian Football League, and I think he's doing a great job on the Western games with Glenn Suter. And I just wanted to mention his name out there as well, Dustin Nelson.
Yeah, between Dustin and Marsh Ferguson, I thought they've both done outstanding jobs coming in, especially as now we're kind of seeing the changing of the guard, like Rob Black's retired. Chris Cuthbert left, of course, to cover the NHL playoffs on CBC and Sportsnet. So to have guys like that come in and offer some great commentary has been awesome. And also got to give once again a shout out to our radio broadcast team. We're pretty blessed with Mike Hogan and Ben Grant to do the commentary on our end as well. So we're truly lucky with some really top tier commentators across the CFL, which all have a passion for this league. Just as a quick kind of side note, the one that really spoke to me was with Dave Naylor. There was a little Argos get together before the season began during the off season as a CFL Fights Cancer event. And talking to Dave Naylor, I obviously thanked him for covering the league and stuff. And it's funny because the first thing he said when I told him is he doesn't understand why so many people this league go up to thank them for covering the league. And it shows the passion that we as fans have and the appreciation and respect that the radio broadcast guys like Naylor, like Shinati, I'm sure like Farhan Lalji and John Liu and all those guys have. It's awesome that they're able to reciprocate it the same way that the players are and the fans are. That's what makes this league so amazing and so special, and you don't have that anywhere else.
And Nick, and also the word of mouth has spread about our show, and right now we're up to 40 viewers on here, which is our record. And I want to say thank you to those 40 viewers for watching this live stream, and it will also be on all the major audio platforms, and the Argo Bounce live audio show now will be on WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia, the home of Southern Talk and Sports, and also the home of the Rod Peterson Show as well. So I just want to say thank you to our audience for watching this live stream and audio later on. And Nick's final thoughts here. And where can our audience follow you on social media? Best place they can get a hold of you, Nick.
How you guys put up with me for an hour of ranting about Argos football, I don't know, but I know I, for one, am grateful to have guys like you who value my opinions on these sorts of things. It's been a lot of fun since coming in and starting to do these Argo Bounce podcast show with you, Chris. And thanks to all of you, because it wouldn't be possible without you guys listening. So I really appreciate it. As always, if you want to get a hold of me, I like to think I'm pretty accessible on Twitter or X, Nick_small_38. You might also find me on Twitter or Instagram too, if you use that more. I'm on most of the Argonauts Facebook groups, though I don't post quite as often. I'm always open to a discussion about the Argos or CFL football in general, or yeah, if you want to talk, I don't know, military history or anything like that, I'm more than happy to chat about it. So,
Hey, Nick, any plans for your own website one day?
maybe one day. Not, I occasionally write some blogs, but I haven't done that much recently. Actually, funny enough, I had a Facebook memory that this day 5 years ago is when I got my undergrad diploma from university. So, thinking about that, it's definitely made me want to do some more writing again. I've kind of slacked on it a little bit. So, as you can see, my bookshelves in the background, I do like to read and study a lot. So, maybe in the future, put a little bit more, get the sports blog back, writing a little bit more about the Argos, and maybe put some historical topics, put my degree to use a bit more.
Speaking of writing, I have to finish up my Argos game night story, and it's on live with CDP wordpress.com. So my article should be coming out tonight, and I will have some interviews and some pictures on my article. To me, I like digital writing, but for me, doing this on air stuff is the great. And uh, I just really enjoy it. I want to say thank you to the Toronto Argonauts and Chris Belnovich for my media opportunities. And I really enjoy going to the games as a fan and also as a media member as well. And Nick, everybody can follow me at Chris D. Pomay on Twitter/X, and my website, beacons.ai/Chris D. Pomay as well. And hopefully, Nick, will get Marty York back on our show again in the future. And I'm looking forward to doing this show with you again for the 2024 season as well.
Yeah, maybe one of these days I'll have to join you up in the media booth one day for an Argos game. Worry about leaving my mom hanging though. Bring my dad along maybe, and he can join her in the grandstands and amazing section 224. There's some really good sections to watch a game in, but for me, 224 is the best.
There isn't a bad seat in that stadium
That's
as
true.
well. So. But Nick, I want to say thank you for coming on tonight. Thank you to everybody watching this live streamed and later on audio and on WQEE 99.1 FM. Nick and I will be on weekly to talk about the Toronto Argonauts, hopefully a lot of wins this season, and also preview their upcoming opponents and maybe a little news around the CFL as well occasionally. And that's about it for tonight, Nick. I guess enjoy the hockey if you're watching the Oilers Florida game 1 tonight, and I guess we'll see you back here next week for episode 2 of the Argo Bounce live audio show.
Thanks, Chris, and thanks everybody who tuned in. You as well. Take care and have a fantastic night, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Nick. That was Nick Small, my co-host of the Argo Bounce live audio show. And again, you can check him out on social media. He's on Facebook, Twitter/X. And before we wrap this up, guys, the next live with CDP Sports Talk, sponsored by BarryCullin.com, is going to be Wednesday, June 12th at 12 p.m. with my guest, Chris Swenson, the longtime public address announcer with the National Lacrosse League's back-to-back world champion Buffalo Bandits. Chris has been their PA announcer since 1992 in their first year, and Chris is going to come on and talk about their latest championship and his 32nd year he's completed with the Buffalo Bandits, going back to their days of the old Buffalo Memorial Auditorium before the KeyBank Center. And guys, the Argo Bounce live audio show will return next week. I'm not sure what date and time yet, and I'm working on more guests. And again, I apologize Marty York had some technical difficulties getting on here tonight, and hopefully we'll have Marty on again soon. Marty is well known in Toronto for being a sports journalist and in the media sector, and he's a huge Argo fan and Canadian Football League fan as well. So hopefully we'll get Marty back on. And I want to say again, thank you so much to everyone watching this live streamed and also on my audio platforms and on WQEE 99.1 FM. I hope everybody has a great night, and hope you guys can tune into Live with CDP Sports Talk this Wednesday at 12 o'clock with Chris Swenson from the Buffalo Bandits. And we'll be back next week with Nick Small and myself for the Argo Bounce live audio show. Again, the Argos defeated the BC Lions yesterday 35-27 at BMO Field. Have a great afternoon, great evening, everybody, and thanks for watching and listening to the Argo Bounce live audio show with Nick Small.
Together fight the foe. Scoring touchdowns for the blue on blue. The Argos will win for you. Full of fight and courage, you can't stop. They pile up the points until they reach the top. Pull together till the gray comes by.